top 10 surprising disadvantages of being rich. It had come as an amazement to nobody that rich individuals appreciate a specific arrangement of points of interest all over. They're by and large more advantageous, increasingly happy with their lives, and, above all, have a ludicrous measure of cash, which is its own prize, truly. The benefits of being rich have been talked about by rationalists and beginner budgetary bloggers the same, and in light of current circumstances, having a great deal of cash truly is quite magnificent. What they don't let you know, however, is that there are many shrouded drawbacks to it, as well, the vast majority of which remain to a great extent undiscussed because of the inferred social shame around cash. What's more, no, we're not discussing issues like my garden is too large, either. Being rich accompanies main problems that might influence everything from your well-being to your own connections. Number 10. Alcoholism. Regardless of whether we don't understand it, many individuals naturally partner liquor addiction with money-related pressure and lower salary levels. While there should be some association between the two, we can say without a doubt that it has nothing to do with the cash itself. Despite what might be expected, as indicated by one examination at any rate, liquor addiction is by all accounts considerably more pervasive in the more extravagant segments of the general public. Conducted by the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, the study was carried out in over 40 nations in Europe. They found that countries like Britain, Ireland and Portugal drink the most, though there were differences in the rate of alcoholism within each country too. Almost across Europe, the rich seem to be drinking much more than the poor. While it might sound strange, different examinations propose that it might essentially have to do with get-to-rich individuals drink a great deal since they have more liquor to drink. Number 9. Anxiety and depression. There's no uncertainty that being rich lightens mental pressure and raises your general degree of life fulfillment. However, it accompanies many other mental issues, also. Being rich has been connected to more elevated levels of different mental issues, like nervousness, in numerous examinations previously. Alongside a couple of different issues you wouldn't anticipate. One investigation, for instance, found that youngsters living in well-to-do rural areas are substantially more liable to show markers of maladjustment, like more elevated levels of tension and gloom, narcissism and substance misuse, than downtown children. Number 8. Making more money only makes you moderately happier. We accept that the majority of our issues could be fathomed by simply having more cash. However, as we demonstrate with this rundown, that is way off the mark to being valid. Being rich is related with many short and long-haul issues, and the trade-off is not really justified, despite all the trouble, as well. Getting more cash doesn't build your general bliss past a point, except if you hit it huge. Exploration demonstrates it, as well. While the facts demonstrate that getting more cash accompanies a more significant level of satisfaction, it just applies till you hit a specific number. Past that, more cash scarcely affects your bliss level. That implies that somebody with a total assets of $10 million is probably going to be as nearly as upbeat as somebody with $100 million, regardless of whether gaining that $90 million despite everything requires a colossal measure of exertion. Number 7. It's boring. The one thing about getting rich that energizes a great many people is the possibility of never working again. Envision what amount time you'd have for yourself on the off chance that you basically had an excessive amount of cash to live off as long as you can remember. While the facts demonstrate that having a great deal of cash permits you a greater number of hours of the day for yourself than somebody who needs to work professionally, it additionally gets entirely exhausting. As indicated by one tycoon, that is really perhaps the greatest disservice of raking in boatloads of cash. Working for food and asylum doesn't simply give food and sanctuary, yet in addition inspiration to improve throughout everyday life. for the most part to show signs of improvement, food and a greater safe house. An absence of that inspiration and drive can, and regularly does, prompt other, greater issues, similar to discouragement. Number 6. It makes you more averse to taking risk. It's an ordinarily held thought that the more extravagant you are, the more hazard you take than others, just on the grounds that you have more cash to chance. While that line of thinking sounds exact, as rich individuals do have significantly more influence to, put resources into a dangerous startup, science says it's not, or if nothing else not when a great deal of cash is included. Studies show that while rich individuals do get a kick out of their chance to face more challenges, that possibly applies when the whole is moderately little. With regards to bigger sums comparative with their general riches, they're really the most secure spenders we are aware of. Number 5. Stress. Taking a gander at how awful the activity advertises correct now for nearly everybody, it's reasonable to expect that the most focused on some portion of the workforce would be the more youthful and less fortunate one. 20 to 30-year-olds and other more youthful ages are famously observed as under more elevated levels of worry than any past age, as well. From rising understudy obligation to over-the-top property rents in most urban regions around the globe, things don't look excessively well for any individual who isn't old and well-to-do as for reasons unknown. However, that discernment couldn't possibly be more off base. Many investigations show that more established and more extravagant laborers really report a lot more significant levels of business-related worry than their more youthful partners. While that may imply that more cash accompanies more pressure, it might likewise imply that more youthful, less experienced experts are simply progressively open-minded towards ordinary work issues. Number 4. Wealth guilt. As the world prepares to understanding, one more, financial stoppage, the contrasts between those who are well off and the poor have gotten much starker. Regardless of where you look, there's a developing, and quickly spreading, wave of dissatisfaction against rising disparity and the overabundances of influence and cash, something that initially came into center in the result of the 2008 money-related accident. One of the social effects of that rush of agitation is a developing feeling of something many refer to as riches blame among the affluent, which is actually how it sounds. The rich, even the ones doing it the correct way and staying out of other people's affairs, are progressively taking measures to not seem to be excessively rich, which is in direct differentiation to the got-it, paraded disposition of the mid-2000s. Number 3. It makes you less generous. On the off chance that you take a snappy overview of everybody around you that gives to good cause, you'd find that many individuals don't do it since they simply don't have the extra money. That is reasonable enough, and would even lead you to expect that qualities like liberality are only reliant on how much cash you have. Sadly, that is not the situation by any stretch of the imagination, and it has been demonstrated by a significant number of examinations previously. More cash really causes you progressively defensive about what you to have, and thus makes you less liberal. Number 2. And less empathetic. Getting more cash doesn't simply make you progressively defensive about it. Some exploration recommends that the more influence and cash you get, the less compassionate you are to the predicament of others. While it might sound discouraging, there are some substantial developmental explanations behind it. During our hunter-gatherer days, leaders were supposed to be good at leading, and any distraction or empathy towards, say, an injured member of the pack would have jeopardized the safety of everyone else. The reduced empathy helped leaders get better at their job and successfully pass on their genes. That's why the people with the most amount of power seldom use it to fix things, they're just not evolutionarily wired to do it. Number 1. Narcissism. It's unjustifiable to paint any gathering with a solitary brush, however the entitled rascal generalization is too across the board to not make reference to here. It's a typical thought that the more extravagant you are, the more self-consumed you become. However, how exact is it, truly? If scientific studies are anything to go by, pretty accurate. At least 5 studies suggest that being rich is overwhelmingly associated with narcissistic tendencies, like regularly looking at yourself in the mirror, and entitlement. The reasons for that, however, aren't as simple as rich people are just jerks. Having more cash than others accompanies the social and mental expense of diminished trust in your general surroundings, as no one can really tell who just likes you for your cash. It drives you to just search inwards for arrangements, which is clearly not an exceptionally sound approach to life in a general public, prompting mental issues like narcissism. How about you? Which feature do you see most often? Comment down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing videos.